Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sylvia Sadowski, and I'd like to welcome you to our PED Lunch and Learn. Today, we'll be talking about open streets and the great work coming out of the Transportation Planning and Parking Division. Open streets brings our city together to enjoy car-free streets filled with activities, vibrant spaces, and community spirit. Today, I'd like to welcome Brian Hollingworth, the Director of Transportation Planning and Parking Division, Rachel Johnson, the Project Manager for Sustainable Mobility Programs, and Juby Lee, the Program Coordinator for Sustainable Mobility. Before we get started, please ensure that your microphones are muted. And this Lunch and Learn will be recorded to be shared with new staff and staff who couldn't make it today. And there will be a question and answer session at the end of the session where you'll be welcome to unmute yourself, raise your hand, and we'll call upon you to ask your question to our speakers. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Brian Hollingworth to kick us off. Over to you, Brian.
Good afternoon, everyone. Brian Hollingworth, I'm Director of Transportation Planning and Parking. I'm so happy to be here today to talk about open streets at this Lunch and Learn because it crosses so many divisions and departments. Open streets are also squarely in line with some of Council's top priorities, such as thriving and safe neighborhoods. And I think you'll see that through the presentation today. The concept of open streets has been around for a while, but really came to reality for Hamilton during the pandemic or emerging from the pandemic. And one might surmise that Hamilton was inspired by examples like Active TO, where they closed Lakeshore Boulevard and Yonge Street and other streets. But I'd argue that Hamilton's interest and experience with open streets goes back a long way. Things like Super Crawl and Art Crawl and all the street festivals, Lock Street Festival, really demonstrated the power of open streets and their impacts on our communities. I think we also, at some point, just all of a sudden realized that taking space from our streets and turning it over from cars to people had so many benefits and very few downsides. I don't hear a lot of complaints about things like on-street patios, but everyone loves them. So I think it was just a collective of things that inspired the group to take on more formally the concept of open streets, which will be discussed today. So I think in this presentation, you'll see the power of open streets. For me, last year's King Street closure was, without a word of a lie, the highlight of my year. And I think that goes to all staff involved. It took about a week for us to kind of simmer down and get off the high of the event. And I think it was because it ticked off so many boxes. Just a few things that I experienced personally is how much noise is reduced when you take traffic off a street. And it's just like a life-changing experience. And how when you walk down a street, you can feel the temperature change, whether there's trees on the boulevard or not. And so there was so many lessons learned. And we really see open streets as a great crucible for experimentation for all things sustainable mobility and beyond. But I'll leave the details up to the team and those that were most involved, and hope you enjoy the presentation and stick around for questions. And more importantly, put May 26th and June 23rd on your calendar.
All right, thank you, Brian, for those words. And we're so lucky and fortunate to have Brian as our director and so supportive of our programming. So my name is Rachel Johnson. I'm the project manager for Sustainable Mobility. And what is sustainable mobility? We get asked this question a lot. So our team sits within transportation planning and parking. And our team is involved in delivering a lot of programs and projects. So these include programming in schools. So right now we're running a program called School Streets. You might have heard of it through the media. So that's where we close down the street outside of Strathcona Public School, Lamoureux Street, just ahead of bell time, so that students and families can come out and enjoy the street and make a safer drop-off and pickup spot outside the school. We also have a workplace travel program we call Smart Commute, which works with employers across the city to work on programs and projects to get employees to commute more sustainably from all across the city. And then we have our community program. So this is a lot of things. So it includes all our active transportation infrastructure, which includes sidewalks and bike lanes and bike parking and the scooters and the bike map. construction and mitigation. We also do a lot of policy pieces like complete streets, the future of micromobility, protected intersections. So we do quite a bit on our team, and this is our team here. You can see in the pictures. So we're a team of about 8 people, and we work in 100 King Street West on the 9th floor if you're ever looking for us. So Open Streets is included in our portfolio. This is new to us as of last year, and we're really excited this year. We just brought on Laura, who's on the right in the pink white shirt and pink pants, as our new Open Streets coordinator, and she just started about a month ago, and we're really excited to have Laura on our team. So let's get into it. Open streets. So what are open streets? Sylvia gave a brief overview. So open streets are programs where streets are open to people and closed to motor vehicle. So they are also sometimes called car-free streets, or they're called cyclovias, which we'll talk about later. And they refer to temporarily closing designated streets to motorized traffic and allowing people to walk, roll, cycle, skate, and participate in lots of activities going on the streets. So these are not festivals, they're more creating space for people to move, as you can see in this image from our event last year along King Street. So they are initiatives that promote community engagement, physical activity, sustainable mobility, and environmental awareness by creating a safe space for people to enjoy public areas away from vehicles.
Nice. So why are open streets important? They promote active transportation, they involve the community. There's a demonstration effect where participants can try different modes of how to move through the road closure in ways that they might not otherwise, in terms of like walking along the street, cycling, trying a bird or a scooter, that kind of thing. And as well, open streets supports local businesses. So a bit of history of open streets. It started in Bogota, Colombia in 1974. The event was called Cyclovia, meaning bike path or cycleway. They close approximately 122 kilometers of streets every Sunday and holidays. Some of those are full road closures and some of them are partial. They estimate about a quarter of their population come out and attend their open streets. So that's about 1.7 million people come out on average a week.
So from Bogota, many cities around the world were inspired. And since then, we've seen lots of examples across the world of open streets. So here are a few examples. So in Los Angeles, they have Ciclavia, which was introduced in 2010. And their model is to do a bunch of small pop-up streets all around the city in different neighborhoods, which is a great way of doing open streets. And they have thousands of visitors. And this year they have 8 events going on. Last year they also had 8 events. New York City has had their Summer Streets program since 2008. They close a lot of major streets in New York City, also run by the New York City Department of Transportation, similar to how ours is run. And people can apply to bring the program to their neighborhood. So this year, New York City will have 54 open streets events throughout the year, which is pretty impressive. And then Toronto, just down the road, they had an open streets program they launched in 2014, and it was with the city and a bunch of not-for-profits and organizations and businesses shutting down Yonge and Bloor Street. And we've seen so many more open streets events all over the world, which are quite impressive and amazing, and we're really excited to have it here in Hamilton. So we had open streets in Hamilton from 2011 to 2016 on James Street North. You can see in the images here, and maybe some of you attended, and that was really awesome, mostly driven by the community, by a group who got together, and there was a planning committee, and they hosted 10 events throughout their 5 years of operations. And then they shut down in 2016. And for a few years, there's the Barton Village Festival who operated. And since then, there was a gap in programming until the city got involved.
So a bit of the timeline of how 2023's King Street Open Streets came to be. So we all remember the pandemic. And during the pandemic, Mayor Fred had made a motion after being inspired of seeing all these other communities closing their streets and opening and hosting open streets. City staff were directed to investigate what open streets in Hamilton could look like. And a report was submitted with various ideas, having a rolling kind of open streets idea, smaller street closures, large street closures. And in June 2022, staff engaged with the public through Engage Hamilton. to get their feedback on, their views on public space and the idea of, what would you think if we closed King Street as part of an open streets? And so the results were actually quite amazing. There was over 1,000 participants that responded to that Engage Hamilton survey. And one survey question we'd like to point out was, do you support running open streets along King Street as a pilot? And 843 said yes, which was an amazing result. And then staff just started the engagement process. And there was a number of logistics and obviously the event execution. A big chunk of the work at the beginning was to engage with our key partners. So internally, closing King Street East, a major thoroughfare in our city, closing it for 4 kilometers for an event has not happened before along King Street. So we worked alongside a number of city staff, and then we started engaging our community partners, including the business improvement area. So this is just a short list of some of our key partners that we engaged with. So in the original report that was submitted to council, there were 6 options proposed of what open streets in Hamilton could look like. So one of them, for example, was a network of the business improvement areas having closures on the same day over the summer months, King Street being a large closure. And then another one was a small streets network. So it included closing a series of local streets, and then they could be networked together. And so those were some of the options. We decided on the closure of King, approximately 4 to 6 kilometers along the LRT route. And it was just really a pilot to kind of test kind of like a large street closure in our city.
All right, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the operational logistics and management. So in terms of funding, this is the biggest question we get asked. How much did it cost? Where did you get the money from? So we were fortunate to receive an active transportation fund federal government grant to put this on. We also had a lot of support from Economic Development Initiative capital account, and we had some sponsorship from TD, which helped offset our costs. So our total cost for this one-day event was about $72,000, which is not totally inclusive because it doesn't include staff time, existing staff time. So people wonder, why did it cost so much? So here are some high-level big cost factors. So we had mail outs, so we had to inform residents that we were closing the street, residents and businesses throughout the quarter that we're closing the street. That's quite costly. We had to contract Hamilton Police Services and a third-party security team for the day of. Last year, we contracted a not-for-profit Environment Hamilton to do a lot of the outreach and engagement for this project, as it was a new project and we didn't have staff capacity at the time. And then this year, as I'd mentioned, we brought on a new team member internal to us, Laura Buckley, which we're really excited about, to have a full-time position running that open streets. And then we had the seat application, which some of you may be familiar with, special events. So we had to work with all groups across the city to get approval from police, fire, EMS, traffic, so many different partnerships. And then we had the HSR bus lane, which GB is going to talk a little bit about, and the traffic control plan, which is a huge part. We have almost 4 kilometers of street, and we're closing down a lot of intersections and almost 44 side streets that we have to close down, and have a plan for how that's going to work and how people who need to get in and out onto the street are going to be able to do so. So this is a map of what it looked like. So in the west, over at John Street, all the way across to Gage Avenue. So as Judy mentioned, this is a future LRT corridor. So we had these activation hubs that were correlated with the LRT stops. So along Wellington, Wentworth, Sherman, and Scott Park. And at the activation hubs was where people saw a lot of the booths and the engagements, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. So the blue arrows show the soft closures. So these streets, the north-south streets, were still operational. So motor vehicle traffic could travel just north and south. They couldn't turn east or west. And then pedestrians, cyclists had to stop and obey the traffic signal as they would normally at those closures.
Nice. So a number of the conversations we had, so internally we're meeting with a lot of other city teams to talk about what Open Streets is about, what it looks like, what King Street would look like when we close the street, and align our priorities. We had discussions with HSR around a bus lane. So in 2023, there was a bus lane from Wentworth to Victoria. You can see the little arrow. It was like a long fence that was placed there to act as the bus lane. We also had a number of exceptions. So when we close such a long street, there are a number of challenges around how to engage with those who absolutely need access. So things like there was a place of worship. A number of their congregants drive from out of town. So we provided access to their parking lot. And then there was a number of car-centric businesses along King Street. Open Streets being generally on Sundays, that actually worked in our favor because a number of those car-centric businesses were actually closed on Sunday, so that worked out well. It's just like for Open Streets and all road closures, it's this challenge of a line between safety and logistics for those who are in the area. But we did it. Sunday, June 18th, which was Father's Day in 2023, we had our Open Streets and we had some really good media hits about it. There was lots of positive vibes. I agree with Brian when he said earlier that it was days after that we just felt like so good about how well the event was. I mean, it also helped that the day was actually such a beautiful, sunny day as well.
So here are some numbers about the event. So we had about 47 community partners join us on the day of. So it's things like Pickleball Hamilton, groups from internal to the city, environmental groups, a lot of health, wellness, and fitness groups. We're going to show you a lot more beautiful pictures later of these. We estimate that about 15,000 people attended, which we were thrilled with because it was the first time that we had done it. We had no idea if anybody would come. So 15,000 was a huge success, I think, in everybody's eyes. We had about 14 businesses engaged up and down the corridor, some businesses opening on Sunday for the first time, just blown away by the number of people out on the street. In total, we had about 70 street activations, things going on for the community to see, what Hamilton has to offer, things they can get involved with, a lot of great events going on. Some highlights, so we had New Hope Community Bikes come out, bring their bike ramps, they brought helmets, they brought bikes, sort of showing people some like new skills, testing their skills, which was great to see. People love that. We had Hamilton Bike Share there with their Everyone Rides initiative. Same thing, you can test the bikes, you can ride them, learn about membership options, and get involved. They also have adaptive bikes, which they had there to showcase and show people some of the different options available to them. We had our e-scooter provider Bird come out. People could take the scooters for a spin. On the right is Cycling Without Age, an excellent organization in the city, and they provide rides to seniors. So behind you can see there's a pilot who's cycling this group of 2 seniors, and they were cycling them up and down the street and talking about their organization, the opportunities to get involved, whether you're a pilot or you want to bring the trishaw, they call it, to a nursing home or to a local park. It's a really great organization and cool just to get the exposure for them and for residents to see what's going on.
Mm-hmm. When we talk about Open Streets, closing the street to vehicle traffic and opening it up for participants to bike, roll, stroll on the street, one of the challenges of having 4 kilometers of a street is that we also have to manage expectations. Like Rachel said, Open Streets is not a festival, and we wanted to manage people's expectations that when they arrive, there wouldn't be, block to block engagements or large music stages and things like that. That is not the point of Open Streets. So it was great to have some of these large activations come to the street. So having city departments come out. The Bookmobile was a large presence on the street. Parasport Ontario had a large presence. They have demonstration wheelchairs that people come out and try out how to be in a wheelchair and dribble a basketball. And then we also had a number of businesses and churches. There was one church that brought out like 6 inflatable games, which was amazing. So it was nice to have that big visual presence on the street. And then we had a number of businesses participate as well. And then we had a bunch of just kind of number of active physical activity groups that joined. So a number of running groups organized runs. The Hammer City Roller Derby came out, which was fun. And then just a number of impromptu groups that came out to just cycle, do a roll or a stroll down the street. So there's just like a number of photos that we're going to show you. During Open Streets, we had a survey for participants, and then after we had sent a link to a survey for all our program partners and our businesses. And for the participants, the survey results were that 81% of participants came to Open Streets by walking, biking, or scootering. 51% attended for 1 to 2 hours, which is a good metric for us to know. That overall the length of 4 kilometers was long enough. The timing of the event was split, so between it was long enough to be longer, so the 10 a.m. to the 2 p.m. it was long enough, or it could go into the evening. 90% liked that it was on a Sunday, which is good. 95% supported the expansion of Open Streets, and 62% want more, about 3 or 4 Open Streets a year. And then for our program partners and businesses, 90% support the idea of expanding Open Streets. 100% of the businesses expressed that they had more or significantly more customers that day. And then 100% of the partners said that they would return again. And this was what we call our Instagrammable moment. So it was a great opportunity for folks to just come out and snap a photo with the People Make Hamilton sign. And then just a number of photos of the actual day. So it was just great to see families come out, community coming out, just kind of doing their own thing.
And then this is some of the qualitative feedback that we received. So these are some tweets that we just shotted from people, and just saying such great things. There was such a good buzz, great energy. The city did a great job of putting this event on. Open Streets on the best streets. What a great day. I couldn't stop smiling. You know, these things are really encouraging, and we're really excited to be able to bring this back. We also had a number of counselors attend. You probably saw Counselor Nan in the previous photo. We were very lucky to have many counselors out and very supportive of the event, and they had great things to say. And I think Brian touched on this a little bit, was what Counselor Cesar said, is that cities aren't loud, but cars are loud. And, you know, without that noise, you can hear so many birds and people and the breeze. And it's just amazing to see that and to feel that support. So a lot of successful tweets and support.
One of the things we do like to emphasize about Open Streets is that it really supports local businesses. So we don't have food trucks that come out. We just encourages the businesses, the eateries along the street to open up and have a presence on the street. And we were very pleased by some of the feedback that we received. This one is from Mina from Cafe Orania. I'm going to just summarize here, but they didn't think anyone would be interested in Open Streets, but Hamilton residents proved them wrong. Their business thrived that day like no other. And we also had similar feedback with the folks from the Kitchen Collective that's on Fairly. They had really strong sales that day. And so overall, we actually have more engagement this year for 2024 Open Streets for businesses. And I think a lot of that is just through word of mouth of the businesses that were open saying like, you should really open because it's a great day. So we really like emphasizing that point about how Open Streets supports local businesses. And then just a little bit about the future of what Open Streets looks like. So currently being on King Street, you know, what Rachel was saying earlier about we'll soon be getting LRT construction happening on King. So we will be moving Open Streets. The location where that will be is undecided. And, you know, we want to consider pieces like how Open Streets can be more consistent around behavior change. And, you know, maybe a street that's going to get some cycling upgrades to it. Maybe we can host an Open Streets there and get people used to riding on that street. In 2024, our vision was really about getting more community partners, still building those relationships up so that people understand what the vision of Open Streets is. So we're excited that that's happening.
So as city staff, there's lots of great ways to get involved in open streets. So last year we had several groups from within the city who used open streets as an opportunity to engage with residents. So meeting people where they're at. You show up here. There's 15,000 people who are interested in seeing what the city is all about, what's offered, and it's a great way to do your whether it's your PIC or just test or pilot some sort of engagement that you're working on. So last year we had some examples. We had Lauren Braitz from the Sustainable Communities team and her team out doing engagement on grids. We had the Climate Change Office, Beatrice, Linda, and Trevor out talking about their new committee, introducing themselves, getting some feedback from the community. So if you have a project that you need to do some community engagement, this is a great opportunity. We also work really closely with Engage Hamilton on providing those opportunities. So start thinking about that, maybe not for the June event because it's in 12 days, but maybe sorry, the May event, but the June event possibly, or keep us in mind for next year. We're hoping to get some sort of city staff engagement team going where we can get feedback. And so keep thinking about that as you're planning for next year. This is a great event to get out and reach a lot of residents who are really interested in engaging. This year we are also looking for some more staff to help us out. We have our entire team available working on that day. If you happen to be available on May 26th or June 23rd, please email me or Juby and we can hopefully get you involved in some way. If you know of anyone else who wants to get involved in volunteering, please also reach out to one of us. And the last thing you can do is come to Open Streets. So bring your family, your friends, your coworkers, your neighbors, help us spread the word for May 26th and June 23rd. We would love to see you there as city staff, as members of or citizens of Hamilton or employees.
Yes, and that is it. We did it. Thank you so much.
Wonderful, great. Thank you for the presentation. We are going to open up the question and answer session. And so the way it works is that you can just raise your hand and you'll be called upon to ask your question using your mic. And I will keep an eye and moderate the hands. So in the meantime, I don't see any, but in the meantime, I'd like to know a little bit more about, with this event growing, and it is very family and community friendly, a lot of people are attending and learning about this initiative. What are you most excited about that's in store for next year? Anybody can answer the question. Is there something that you couldn't do this year or last year that you really want to see happen next year?
I think for us, the conversations about how long the event can be, typically open streets are 8 to 10 kilometers long and ours is 4. So like, oh, could we make this physically longer or have the days be like in terms of hours longer? Because we did notice that as soon as the street started to close around, I would say 8 o'clock, a number of folks who are just out and about just started to take advantage of that closure. They were either doing their morning runs, they were out with their baby strollers. It was like they were already up and they're going to move around. So I think those kind of conversations, and then of course, where is the next open streets once King Street is, once we get the LRT construction happening, where open streets would go, I think is a very exciting question to find the answer to.
Mm-hmm.
Great. I'm looking for any other hands. I don't see any for the time being.
Maybe we'll stop. Should we stop sharing our screen?
Sure.
We saw a few hands. I don't know if you can see them on your end.
Oh,
I saw people clapping. I think people were clapping earlier.
Sylvia, Christina here. I had I had a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Christina.
How Hi, thanks so much for the presentation. I just want to say last year I came out for Open Streets. I live on Hamilton Mountain, and we brought our bikes down with my husband and had just an absolutely fantastic day. So the observation of Councillor Cassar that how quiet and how peaceful the downtown core was really, really resonated. So yeah, totally. I think this is a fantastic initiative. My question is, as this moves forward, has there been any thought given into maybe expanding this into the evening hours? When we talk about, stimulating nighttime economy, I see if it were to somehow, or the hours extend into when it starts getting a little bit darker, one, if it's in the summer and it's hot, might not be so hot for some people because there is not a lot of tree canopy cover, like a lot of shade. So it might be more comfortable for people. And with the darkness, there's an opportunity to really maybe do some light installations and really have a lot of fun with it to draw people out. So just kind of throwing that out there if there's been any thought given to that.
Yeah, I can say not at this time, but we'll definitely take your comments and considerations back. As I mentioned, we have a new staff person whose full-time job it is to do open streets coordination. So we're excited for after our events wrap up this year to have a lot more time and capacity to do more of those like long-term plannings and going out to the community and to city staff and hearing from people what they want to see and what opportunities there are for the future of open streets creating visioning. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, I love that question. I think there's some people here from public spaces as well, from tourism and culture, who might want to have a chat, and perhaps there's an opportunity there to get them involved as well. I can't see any hands, but I'm wondering, Rachel, Juby, Brian, if you can see any on your end.
I think Joshua Carroll had us and Omar Sham.
I think Omar Lord.
Great. Joshua, did you want to go first? And then we'll go with Omar.
Sure, yeah. I just wanted to thank the team for putting this on. It was an incredible event, very fitting of a world-class city. I'll third Christina and Councillor Cassar's comments. Like when I was in the International Village, I had never realized all the tree canopy there and how it was actually shaded, and it was incredible. So thank you so much. I'm sure it involved a lot of knee-jerk reactions when you first are engaging with the folks along that stretch, but just keep up the good work. It was a really proud time for Hamilton. So
Thank you, Joshua. We appreciate that.
Omar, go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, team. I can't just say a lot of good words because those would be biased. My question was partially asked by Christina on the dark hours, but also in terms of any consideration for intersection and the street mural, because you don't have traffic, you have all day, and there's a lot of creative minds and artists in Hamilton. Has that been a consideration moving forward? So the first question, and second was in terms of security. Rachel, you mentioned there was a third-party security team. Was there any issues from a security standpoint throughout the 4 kilometers that maybe it was a lesson learned moving forward or something, or any other opportunities? Because I know cost of security is a little higher. That could be expensed in a lot other better ways. Just want to stop there and see what you have.
I can take on the security question. So thanks, Omar. Yes, so what we did with the security team was actually station them in areas where there might be potential like stranded car drivers. So for instance, we would put them where the underground parking was and get them to just kind of direct folks out of the closure, for instance. And then we also had, like Rachel was saying, we had paid duty officers with the Hamilton Police at the large intersections that were open. And that just helps keep the flow of traffic going north-south going. But those were the 2 jobs, big jobs that had to, with such a large road closure, we wanted to make sure that whatever traffic was there was moving as smoothly as possible. And I think
Yeah, and in terms of the murals, we have discussed this, and we work very closely with the public art and placemaking team, specifically Sarah Emke and her team, on more beautification and animation of the street. That is something we'll definitely consider when we go back after our events this year. Is working closely. We're very fortunate to have such great city staff, partners, and collaborators that we work with. And when we bring an idea to a team, we get a lot of great support for our events or things that are going to go on the street. So definitely we'll take that back as a comment and suggestion, and hopefully we get more city staff to come together and bring their ideas and their resources to the team, and we can deliver more great events.
Awesome. Thanks, Rachel and Juby.
Great. Thanks, Omar, for your questions. I am checking for hands. It's working now, finally. And I don't see any new ones. Oh, Peter Fortune. Peter, you can go ahead.
Yeah, Omar, I just wanted to respond to your comment about the murals. We've actually had a few artists reach out to us about doing murals on this particular day. There is some complications in that some of them need lifts to be able to do the work. And they're doing the murals as part of the, I believe it's a commercial facade improvement grant program through ECDEV. So I did advise them that if they want to do the street that the street is already closed, and that is a good time to do it. However, they have to reach out to the team that's running the street closure. Thank you very much for bringing that up. But if they haven't reached out yet, then they're not going to be doing it. It really comes down to whether or not they can mobilize in time for these murals that are planned. But I think they actually might be targeting the next Open Streets event, not this one.
All right, sounds good.
We look forward to connecting with them. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for that information, Peter. So I think those are all the hands. I think I see Joshua has an old hand, I'm going to guess, unless you have another question, Joshua. All right, I think that's all of them. So thank you to our speakers, Rachel, Juby, and Brian, for putting together such an informative presentation about the work that you do in your division. And thank you for everyone for being a great audience today. So I do have two reminders before we do close off. A reminder that the Open Street dates in Hamilton for this year. So mark your calendars, May 26th and June 23rd. It'll be from King Street East to John Street to Gage Avenue from 10 until 2 p.m. And a second reminder, if you are interested in getting involved, just like Rachel and Juby were saying, please reach out to one of them or anybody on their team. There is a lot of opportunity for collaboration and involvement, it sounds like, and it sounds like it's just going to get growing for next year as well. So if you're interested to help out, contact one of them. And keep an eye out for our future Lunch and Learns for this year. If you have a project that you're working on that you want to showcase in your team, please reach out to one of our employee engagement members. Rachel is one of them as well for the Parking and Transportation Division. And send your ideas off. We are very happy to showcase staff and the projects that they're working on. So thank you again, Rachel, Juby, and Brian, and have a great rest of the day, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.